Hey everybody, welcome to episode 13 of Let's Play Kerbal Space Program. We'll get our 0.90 career continued. Okay, so here we are in the mission control, and I have picked out some. I still need to get this particular visual survey done, but I think I'll actually try and do that on our way down from the other missions that I've selected. We're going to find some science data from space around Kerbal. These are always nice for a little bit of cash injection. And we're going to rescue Elnand Kerman from Kerbal. He should be in orbit, so let's take a look at the tracking station and see where he's at. Here he is on an equatorial orbit that he's not particularly happy about probably right now, but we're going to go ahead and get up in there and rescue him. We have a ship design that we know is capable of doing rescues. We'll pull up Autobot 1, which we know from the previous launches was not able to get the job done of completing one of those survey missions, and I never was able to figure, or not survey missions. It was never able to get the job done of being a satellite in a specific orbit. I never was able to figure out what it took to get that contract to be satisfied, so I've decided to abandon those and not play those for now. We'll just get ourselves a re-entry vehicle set up here. For the rescue. And the sites can really be anything. It could be a crew report or materials bay or whatever. We'll just go ahead and grab it and transmit it to make sure we complete that contract. And I'm just going to double check all the staging here. We have more parts than I need, but that's okay, because actually what I'm going to do is get rid of a set of these and reposition those, and then we'll just double check I like how things are staged. So we'll have these pair of rockets fire off. Don't need that stage, actually. This one is next. They decouple and those rockets fire off, and then after that they decouple and the main engine goes, and then it looks like this. This top part does its thing, and this does its thing. In fact, we don't need this much rocket even. We are just going to reduce the amount of rocket we need for all of this kind of thing, and I am going to call this Kerbal Rescue. So this is this will be the default configuration for any rescue missions we want to do around Kerbal. Should have no issue performing that task. Triple check my staging once again here. All right, let's go rescue him and get our other stuff done. Okay, we are up and on the way. Solid rocket booster doing its job of lifting us out. I am going to put that on a second stage, on its own stage, just in case I need to enable it beforehand. Heading on up here, and the next solid rocket boosters do their thing. We'll go ahead and get this going to help us get up to speed. I think I have thrust limiter set on these solid rocket boosters, which is fine. That's not a big deal. So So when I get myself up to 200 meters per second, then I can start backing off the throttle. So now it's time to start pitching our ship over sideways. That stage is done. We can get rid of it. And go full throttle. Just get our apoapsis up to the height that we want and keep control of this as best I can. Trying to point prograde as much as possible. This is kind of a steep ascent, but that's okay. That won't matter. Where is he? He is way over there. Currently at 111,000 meters. So, you know what? We're going to go for a standard orbit just above the atmosphere. And when we get there... okay, I can shut down this battery for now. That's right, we're still in the atmosphere, so I still got to climb up, get ourselves out of the atmosphere, and at the apoapsis, we'll go ahead and start working on our prograde vector again. So I'll catch you guys in just a little bit when we get to the apoapsis. Okay, we're back, and we're pretty much at the apoapsis, so let's get a battery turned on. Get ourselves positioned for this maneuver. This rocket actually has a gimbal on it. And one little trick you can do is, if you're at the apoapsis like I am here, we can sort of point away from the horizon to keep just a little bit, so that apoapsis doesn't dip while we're, so we don't actually fall down, because we're getting behind the apoapsis. We're going to start falling down here. And we just kind of want to keep this apoapsis up in front and ahead of us, if at all possible, by pointing up out of the horizon a smidge. See now how the apoapsis is pretty much on top of us? Okay, we need to stage. And this rocket just got a whole lot lighter. Whoa, and a whole lot less a whole lot more maneuverable. Very squidgy. Light touch. So again, I'm just pointing away from the horizon, just enough to keep that apoapsis right where it's at. I don't want it falling down into the atmosphere if I can avoid it at all. And we are now sending the apoapsis, so that I get control of this thing again, up ahead of us. So now if I just fast forward time a little bit and fast forward to where the apoapsis is once again, we won't use much electrical charge in this orbit. Our debris will fall back down into the atmosphere. Once again at the apoapsis, we are going to get ourselves a circular orbit. So I've set myself up an orbit here with our target here, Elnand, where we're actually orbiting on the inside track. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow us to catch up to him over time. So I just want to get this as circular as I can for now. Okay. So at this point, it's a waiting game, which means I want to save more battery power. I'm going to go find this battery that I turned on, turn it off, make sure all the batteries are turned off, and we are going to fast forward time a whole bunch until we get caught up to where we're much more closely behind Elnand Kerman, and we'll figure out a transfer. Can I get information on him? And we're back. I fast forwarded time a bunch, and I've gotten to where I'm, kind of catching up to him slowly but surely. At my periapsis, I am going to go ahead and thrust prograde. Actually, I should do that now. So we're going to go ahead and start setting up an encounter. So with rendezvous, we're really talking about trying to figure out how to get to the same spot at the same time as the target we are catching up to. So what I need to do now is, well, I can do this from the map, actually. I need to turn on a battery. And I need to thrust prograde so that my orbit meets what's his name, Elnand on the other side of this orbit. So I need to make my orbit basically match up with his. Or at least have the same height on the other side of the planet. And then I need to sort of hope that I don't, overfly him too much or whatever. You saw me do this on the other episode and I was rushing through it, but this time I can actually be a little bit more deliberate since I know that I don't have the instruments that I had before. That's looking pretty close. Apoapsis of 104. He probably comes down to 104 or something like that. And now we're just going to cook ourselves around this to the other side. So you can see we've actually kind of overtaken him at this point. And now what I need to do is I need to thrust prograde when I get to this apoapsis again. Well, I need to do a couple of things. So right here, let's kind of zoom in. You can see where our orbit lines cross. So what I want to do is I want to aim my orbit line up like this. So I'm going to do that right now. To get it more aligned with his. About like that. It's not perfect, but that's okay. And we are now coming up on the apoapsis once again. So I will use a little bit of juice to get myself oriented. And thrust prograde to get my periapsis where I want it. So I want my periapsis to also kiss his orbit as best I can. And I can actually thrust, since he's a little bit behind me, now I need him to catch up. So I'll point prograde once again, and thrust a little bit more to get that apoapsis out a smidge. So his altitude is 105. If I set the 111, that's pretty good. So now I am sort of, I'm just running this outside track. It's not much of an outside track, but it's enough that I will be able to catch up with him, or he'll be able to catch up with me over time if I just sort of wait. So let's get out of the map. We'll disable the battery. There he is. In fact, we can target him. So he's 20 kilometers away, and that wouldn't seem like a very far away, but in orbit, it is actually a really long way away. We don't want to spend a lot of fuel trying to chase after him at 20 kilometers. So we're going to let him come closer. It's going to seem like he's getting further away for a bit. Oh yeah, I see why it seemed like he's getting away for a bit. So, okay, so he was getting further away because our periapsis was still underneath his, or this orbit's a little strange. That's okay. But, kind of watch. We'll see him. He's at 34 kilometers. And this is just a part of the rendezvous that takes a little bit of patience. A space shuttle has to deal with this kind of thing in real life all the time. So that's about as close as he's going to get on this orbit pass. This is us at our periapsis, and it looks like, I can't tell, but it looks like what I need to do our periapses are so closely matched, or at least our distances right now. I think what I need to do at this point is do a radial burn. What's going to happen is I'm going to end up in that inside track again, and I don't want that right now. I want to be on the outside track. But prograde and retrograde are not the ways to go right now, so I'm setting myself up for a radial out, actually. Oh, I have target mode on, orbit. So radial out. And what this will do is it should shift this inside track to be more like his. And I really want to push that periapsis up a little bit. So I'm still a little bit on the inside track. Apoapsis is 13. I'm going to go ahead and thrust prograde to push that apoapsis out even more. Like that. And then we should see him slowly gain on us a little bit more as we time warp. So disable my battery. Have the target right there. And he's behind us, so as I swing out and away from the planet, he's actually going to... Here we go. As I swing out and away from the planet, he will take the inside track and catch up on us once again. This time getting considerably closer. Now he's within 5 kilometers. Which actually, given the capabilities of the spacecraft we have now, is good enough to go get him. So let's turn on a battery. Flip over to target mode. So now that I'm in target mode, these markers mean different things. This means prograde with respect to the target. So with respect to this target, this is the direction my ship is heading. What I actually want to do is I want to zero out my velocity with respect to the target by going like this. And you can see that with respect to target, velocity changes drastically. And now he's 5 kilometers away, but we have a much more similar orbit. I'm on the outside track. He'd actually end up passing by me. So I'm going to just aim to this marker, which is directly at him. You can see him in front of me there. And head towards him relatively quickly. I want to get this to maybe a pretty decent clip, actually. Yeah, 50 meters per second is good. And at this point, I can keep my batteries on, or this particular battery on. And he comes closer and closer, and will pass by us. So he's passing by us within a kilometer, or within 1.2 kilometers basically. Now I thrust this way towards the retrograde marker with respect to the target, and I want to do my best to get this to absolute 0. .4 meters per second. Okay, now with that absolute as close to 0 as possible, I'm using the old time warp trick. If you time warp a little bit, your ship will stop rotating on its own because it's put on the rails simulation. It's a little bit cheesy, but whatever. Okay, we are now at a point where Elnand Kerman is 1.3 kilometers away from this, so we can take control of Elnand. Here he is. Press R to get his RCS up under control here. And he can start looking. V for camera? Camera free. There we go. Yes, the free camera is the one I want. So he can actually thrust towards this guy using his jetpack. And we can start seeing the twinkle of the spaceship out there now. So the idea of rendezvous is you get your orbit lined up so that you can make an encounter, basically, with whatever you're looking for. Then you keep adjusting that orbit so you get closer and closer. When you get to your closest pass, you then switch over to target mode so that your instruments are showing how fast you're going with relationship to the target, and match its velocity as best you can. When you're within about 2 kilometers, you can switch over to the crewman, like I did here, and fly him in using his jetpack. And I'm just using a little bit of touches here and there to keep this guy under control and fly him into Kerbal rescue. And once I get him on board and get him on the ground, that'll be worth a lot of money. And I'll end up with another crew member. Okay, he's safely on board. Now we need some science from up here in space to get that other contract done, so we'll get a crew report and transmit that data. That gets that one done. He's been added to the crew. That gets a little bit of funds for rescuing him into the thing. He is not a pilot. So now the only thing I need to do is, ooh boy, do I have enough thrust for that attitude change? All right, so if I want to make this visual survey, I need to get my orbit aligned, which means I need to face orbit anti-normal. And spend some fuel bending my orbit. Let's try this. So we're going to set our periapsis to 30,000 meters now. Actually, we'll set it lower. We'll set it to 20. And hopefully that'll get us re-entry in here, in this corridor. Something like this. Okay. I do think I still need to adjust the angle of this flight a little bit further because the planet has rotated underneath me. More north. But I'm no longer worried about fuel. If I have to spend all of my fuel doing this particular maneuver, we're good. Because we're now in a re-entry attitude. Alright, we're coming up on re-entry, and as you can see, I miscalculated my descent, and I'm going to end up missing Scientist's Twilight once again. But I should have no problem returning our stranded Kerbal, getting those funds instead. And we got a successful splashdown of Ellen and Kerman. Got 3,000 funds back, and we got a nice little cash injection from these particular things. Got ourselves Ellen and Kerman, who gained himself an XP as well. So that is going to be it for this episode. Thanks for watching. Until next time, keep flying and stay shiny. Goodbye!